Good evening, everyone. It's 5 o'clock. We'll call this work session of Monday, March 16th to order. Our first order of business is the adoption of the agenda.
I'd like to add something to the agenda, if this is the right time.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
It's a terrible time.
Sir?
It's a terrible time. What you want to add?
I just want to get a report or a status report from the chief, fire department as far as coordinating with the agencies with this update on the coronavirus.
Okay. Well, and I want to make a couple comments too. Why don't we try to make that all into one piece? So if anybody wants to do anything with Corona, everybody can kind of do it then. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So we'll put that under new business, and we'll do that as actually do that as item B. Okay. As the first thing in the new business, or item. I'm gonna put CA or something like that. So it's right on top of the home program. All right. Anybody else got anything they want to add?
Move we adopt the agenda with the addition of the coronavirus.
Second.
Second.
Any conversation? Seeing none, everybody in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise. All right, so the agenda is approved. All right, so we got item A under old business. And you gonna do that, Ron? We're up to that? Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that. So at the last meeting, there was votes on a few items, which were approved amendments to total hearing and planning casualty consent agenda, where there was motions made. We went back and reviewed the minutes, there wasn't evidence of the second. And so tonight we just need a vote to ratify the votes and the action of the council at the last meeting. So we need someone to make a motion to ratify those actions. Somebody second it, and then vote on it.
I'll make a motion we ratify the votes of last meeting.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. We good? Anybody opposed? No, nobody was opposed. I apologize for that. I had listened too good in the retreat, apparently, because that guy said you didn't have to have a second, so I didn't want to waste y'all's time. But apparently, we still have to have a second. So that's something at some point we'll bring up. So about taking that up, okay. All right, Summer Youth Employment Initiative. I mean, Councilman Williams, you're the one that's kind of led this, so you got any comments or thought, what you got?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Research shows that summer employment programs help youth build valuable skills. The 75% of youth that participated in summer employment improve their work readiness skills. They build time management skills and do better in school. We have even heard our chief of police say his department has seen a drop in juvenile crime since the program. Programs such as these help us in many levels, because not only do they help our young people gain necessary skills, they help to supplement the much needed income for their families. This income impacts our local businesses as well as young people. They're spending their earned income right here in Goldsboro. I hope I have the support of my fellow council in expanding the program and lowering some of the restrictions for work sites. Myself and Mayor Allen attended a summer youth employment class in Charlotte, and they said it's vital that programs like these grow every year. We already have other cities who are now switching their summer programs to year-round programs. We are talking about our kids who are our future, and for that reason, we should leave no stone unturned. Our objective should always be, what more can we do to help the young people in this community? Let's work with businesses who want to be work sites, and let's relax the restrictions that require that they be responsible for training and mentoring for the full time the youth are there. We have a lot of organizations in our community who specialize in mentoring, so let's reach out to them. Also, since the program will have time set aside for the youth to help train them on financial literacy and on other mentoring style skills taking place outside the work site, it seems repetitive to have the business do this. I think we will get more businesses willing to sign up if we just allow them to do what the program is designed for, and that is train our young people and then allow them in turn to get hands-on experience. I think most of us can agree getting the experience of how to do the job is the best teacher of skill building. I have gotten a lot of feedback from business owners, my constituents, and the young people in the community. And the consensus is they would like to see the program expand and more work sites allowed. They want solutions and opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments?
I just had a question pertaining to, from page 1 in the packet, who is the selection committee? They seem to speak prematurely since we don't know, as of yet, who the work sites will be. And that's in the second paragraph. If we want to give real-life experience to our youth, then we have to prepare them to know most employers won't have time to just mentor them, and most employers will just focus on training them to properly do the job they expect. So there was a couple more questions that was on the flyer. There should be an option for a paper application, as all don't have internet access. I didn't notice that it was a paper application available. And if we are going to do it strictly on the internet, then we should have some locations that are available that they can find a location if they don't have a computer. Salary should be one rate. I've noticed that it's stated in the flyer, depending on what job location they're at, that it could fluctuate. So I believe that it should be $7.25 across the board, so it doesn't cause any confusion. And also, conflicting info is being sent to the public that the application open app is 3/6/2020 to 4/26/2020. Yet the News August has a statement from Community Affairs open application 4/20/2020 until 4/24/2020. So it seems as we're already behind because we just received this info at last council meeting on the 6th. And we are now making decisions for 3/16/2020. I have gotten a lot of calls concerning they only have 4 days. My concern is it makes us look like we don't know, like we don't have a solid plan moving forward. So I'd like to get that, and I'd like to also know what our marketing strategy is, because it's very short notice.
Any other comments?
Also, if I can piggyback on what you said as far as the paper application, I think that'd be more feasible. A lot of kids don't have access to the internet, and now that the schools are at least closed now with a minimum of 2 weeks, maybe more, the deadline may need to be expanded also because the kids are not going to be in school. I had about 40 students in my 2 classes that are eligible, meet the requirement, that are ready to work, but now being that we're out of school, that's going to be an issue with them moving forward also. So maybe we might need to consider expanding the deadline also.
Well, a couple of things. What I'm reading is it says that the application deadline was extended to April 8th. I don't have my glasses, April 8th. So I think the application has been extended.
But is that, you think, with us kind of close to the end of March, April 8th even being, maybe not being in school then?
I don't know how much time the people need to get it all together, so
Okay.
can we extend it more? Is that all we can do? What can we
I
do?
need to correct you, Mayor, you're reading from last year's final report. And the flyer you all had was what was given at the retreat, that if we would have approved the program as such, we could have moved forward with this timeline. When the News August called in reference to some update, I informed them that I would be coming before council to ask, can we do the March 23rd through April 24th? This would give us enough time to send out an email blast, as well as radio advertisement would be the same marketing. We will utilize the same marketing that we did last year, which is radio, email blast, newspaper, city website, as well as our sponsoring partners website. In reference to the salary, the reason why I used to have, which has been known since the beginning of the program, housing authority sometimes pays for their own youth, and when they pay for their own youth, they choose their salary. So that's why it says $7.25 or depending on your work site, because if you're hired by the housing authority, they have the choice to pay you $8.25 instead of the $7.25. That has been the standard since the beginning of the program. We are trying to give them 30 days to submit. I will tell you The reason why it's been advertised on the flyer that I provided you all, this has not gone out to the general public, that applications can only be submitted online is because the city of Goldsboro has always, in the last 2 or 3 years, has been paperless. We are the only holdup of them being online completely. It has become to be a complete chaos for onboarding for HR to do paper. Because what we typically have to do, if a paper come in, we have to key those in. And if we don't get all the information, we have to constantly call them to get that information in. I will tell you that we saw last year where we had several applications that was provided online. All applications through the city of Goldsboro is online. That is the standard, and it's so that we can assist with our partners in HR and not cause them the headache and confusion of not having the information they need in NeoGov to be able to do onboarding for our summer youth.
So-
Now,
If they were to come to City Hall and work with you or go to a library, they could do
Now,
that electronic application, right?
HR has a kiosk set up that where even general adults come when they're applying for applications, they don't have internet access, that they go to that kiosk in HR and apply. They can pull it up, you can pull up the application, do it online through a cell phone. I've done that, updating applications at other cities. You can go to the library, so it's accessible across the board. There's no restriction of where you can pull up the application, just typically as the adults that are doing all online application. We do not accept paper. The summer youth was the only paper one, and as I stated, it has become a bit of a problem with the onboarding for the city of Goldsboro for their HR standards.
Do you have any feel for what the application turnout's gonna be this year? I mean, do you have any, you get any
Say that again?
application turnout for this year, or do you have any feel at all?
No, I do not. I wouldn't, I'd like to have factual information for before I do any
How many did you have
estimates.
last year, Chico?
That is in the report that you all received. The first page, there was a total of 107 applications, 29 were online, 78 were paper. And that was with doing the second extension. That's all we received was 107 applications. So within the first 30 days, when we were asked to extend, because it was under this assumption that it wasn't enough time, we only received an additional 11 applications when we extended it again. So like I stated, the session that we had it open, it was for, we only received 107 applications.
So what's the extension at this point? on that?
There's no extension. This
Or
has
what's
not
the
been.
date? What's the cutoff date?
The
right now?
date would be, we would want to push it out March 23rd to April 24th.
April 24th.
And as I stated, we wanted to push it out sooner, but we had to wait for you all approval. That wasn't granted during this council retreat nor at this last council session. So we're back before you now to get approval so that we can move forward with the program and market it.
Okay, so I've seen some desire to grow the program, obviously, we've talked about that. I guess my question to the council would be, why don't we let them go ahead and start taking applications through the April 24th? Halfway in between, we can look at it and see what kind of applications we have. You know, and in the meantime, if you're gonna grow the program, that means you're gonna have to go see somebody, or I'm gonna have to go see somebody, or you're gonna have to go see somebody, or somebody's going to go see somebody and ask them, will they participate? Will their business participate? I mean, I really believe that's the only way, that's how we grew it last time, is basically I went and saw several people. But there's other people who can see people just as easily. And I think if you want to try to grow it, that's the first thing to do, is find out who will grow, who will help you grow. And then we gotta also have to remember that we have partners. So we gotta talk to our partners and be sure that we're not getting way out of their comfort zone too. But that's just one suggestion. If somebody's got something better, that's fine too.
I think we should grow very moderately if we do that, because we're asking the employer to dedicate one of their FTEs to do that. I don't mind growing a small amount or anything, but not a great amount. And when you look what we're doing compared to other cities, our size or even larger, we're even doing more now than we've done before. It's been a wonderful program. Let's let it ride and get a reputation. like you've got 40 people now. That's great. We didn't have 40 people before. Interesting. But let's grow a very small increment, if in fact we grow at all.
And I will tell you all, the work that the council and sponsor partners have contributed to the program, you know, as I tell people, a pilot program is not meant to, at the end, increase. It's meant to be a betterment of the program. And we have enhanced this program with our partners with Wayne Community College, Literacy Connection, Bank on Wayne. We've brought in partners that have really, as I stated, enhanced this program and made it more comprehensive. So pilot programs don't necessarily mean transition in number of size, it's quality that you provide in the program. And we have top of the board program compared to the other cities bigger our size.
All right, any more questions?
I got a few things I'd like to clarify if I could, sir. So Shakul, your current program can take about 58 people? With
50.
this 50 people?
Yes, sir.
And we already do 2 to 3 times more than cities 2 to 3 times our size.
Yes, and I provided that to you all in your package showing that cities that have 3 times or 4 times your population do not do the number that you are using. So, you know, we're providing the service to more youth than cities bigger than us. And as I would like to clarify, no disrespect to my colleague, but there's been no data collected to justify or study done to determine the crime rate with the program. There's 70,000 youth in Wayne County. So I will tell you that as much as I think this program is amazing, and I know it is because I've seen how the individual lives have been packed, 50 is not going to decrease your crime rate.
And it's about $750 or $800 per
It's
person, right?
870 youth per person youth.
Any more
And I think I
information?
provided all that in your package.
Any other questions? Okay, so you're gonna continue moving forward somewhere of a week or two before the 24th. We'll see where you're at, and then we can come back to the council and kind of see what the direction is then, okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Before you continue, this is just for council. This city is in dire need. Unlike other cities basically don't have the problems that Wayne County has. We've had a poverty study done by Mr. Gene Nichols, and he stated at that time that we had single mothers here that were high poverty level. So it's very vital to stimulate this economy by adding more jobs. The only restrictions we have is that it's tough on employers trying to with the stipulation of mentoring. If we take that mentoring out, then you're going to have more work sites available. In the past, Mr. Mayor, you stated it's not a money issue. It's the fact of having locations for those individuals.
That's correct.
So we have a lot of companies here that if you didn't have that restrictions of being a mentor, they would be gladly, that no one wants to sit 4 hours once they train an individual, a child, a teen, how to work. For instance, if they went to your company, for instance, there's no way once you train your employee that you're gonna sit there and mentor. And my first job, working at a fast food place, I watched the video on training, and then I was on my own. I mean, this is very important.
Well, I'll be honest, I don't know enough about the mentoring part to argue with you or debate with you or not. This is what I do know. At the end of the day, the most important thing are the safety of these kids. And in no way, shape, or form do we want to jeopardize that. I don't know what's involved as far as once they get there, do they watch a movie, do they work? I don't know. Okay? But we can study that further. And if there's something that the program that we're doing that we don't need to do, we can undo it after whatever. Now, I don't know the answer to that. I've never heard that as being a problem. So,
It's one of the stipulations in here. Some of the work sites, you do not want to have to sit there all day with an individual once they tell them what the job description is. And I think that it's, we have a lot of individuals here that work for the city that could easily send an email blast out to companies. We can get in contact with the chamber. We have so many companies in the city of Goldsboro. And all we have to do is just contact or send a letter out saying, hey, You know, we want to get these kids to work. It's not that difficult. It's just the fact of, starting the process. And we're behind in the process.
And we can also, let me talk to Latoya, we'll talk to Latoya, and maybe we can bump up our special pay or something on that.
Thank you, sir. All right.
I have one question. Who's the selection committee?
The selection committee has always been the staff of the sponsoring partner, so it's Ms. Renita Dawson, myself, Michelle Wiggins, Jennifer Pope. And if Ms. Jennifer Pope, and before Ms. Shaquita Hatchett went to Wayne Community College, when she couldn't fill in, Ms. Shaquita Hatchett did. So it's always been that the sponsoring partners staff is the selection committee. I will tell you that that decision was made because based off the previous council and former city manager, it was to ensure that there was no political pressure or outside influences of the directors of the sponsoring partners of selecting the youth, so that we can say that this was a fair program. And in the previous 3 cycles, the council each time was committed for us to continue that way. And I do need to, and I thank you for asking that, because I have totally breezed past that. But I had to ask, will the council support the selection committee being as such, following the same procedure?
No, I think it's worked fine so far. Unless anybody else got a different opinion. All right, thank you, Scope. All right, so our next item is item B, C, A, C, or some C, I don't know.
CA.
Chief, you want to come up?
Let me make a few comments first, if I could, sir.
No.
All right, you want Chief to go direct? Okay, so the mayor joined the Wayne County Board of Commissioner Chairman's State of Emergency Declaration last night. This is in response to the North Carolina Governor Cooper's announcement that all public schools shall remain closed until March 27, 2020. All City of Goldsboro offices remain open at this time. I ask all Goldsboro residents and visitors to reference our city website and Facebook pages for the most up-to-date information. City staff are postponing or canceling events over 50 people per recent CDC guidance as of this morning. But as of an hour ago, the president was on for an interview, and he recommended 10 hours, or 10 total people, at a meeting. So we'll have to take a look at that. We also are limiting work-related non-essential travel and considering a telework policy for those who can do so for the immediate future for 2 to 4 weeks. We have posted COVID-19 signs and hand sanitizers by government facility entrances. And we ask that employees, all residents and visitors, adhere to those signs, wash your hands, sanitize your hands, and do what is expected in order to stop the slow spread of the virus. And if we can turn it over to the chief, I know he's been involved with emergency management, take any updates he has.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Thank you, Councilman Pollard, for asking. I had actually prepared because I was supposed to talk with the city manager earlier regarding the emergency management, what's happening with the city of Goldsboro. Do you have specific questions, sir?
Just possible resources that might need to be pulled, things as far as like a wish list of things that we might need to be more conservative on spending in other areas as it relates to what emergency services may need. That's one of my biggest concerns.
Well, I think, so my perspective, if I may speak frankly, and I'm here, and so I'm going to speak frankly, is that emergency management, the trend is there's just going to be more and more emergencies.
Yes, sir.
And, they've hit Goldsboro, typically it's a hurricane, but this is a pandemic. So it's all about planning, having a plan in place. Being an emergency manager, I just happen to have that other hat. There's a cycle. There's preparation, the planning cycle, response, mitigation, recovery, those type of things. And one of the things is that the city of Goldsboro, that I've stressed since my arrival, is our emergency operation plan is outdated. And part of and tell me if I'm going in the wrong direction, but part of that is when we're just about a generation removed from 9/11, and then 15 years removed from Katrina. After Katrina, everybody understood, the President, Homeland Security President Presidential Directive Number 5 from President Bush said that we will have one way that we do emergencies, the National Response Plan, NIMS ICS. And I don't know if everybody around at the table knows that federal funding is actually tied to, for preparedness grants, is tied to whether or not everybody in government has that training. So it's important, for one, for us to update our plan, I think, and go by the plan, because it's not a plan. Eisenhower said planning is everything, plans are nothing, but you have to have a plan to start with. So what we're doing, as far as the city manager talked about as an agency, the things that we've worked together with your directors, and making sure that, one of my biggest concerns, of course, not only are the citizens, but also the employees that I serve. And part of that is the policies associated with them. And, just about every, like what the city managers talked about, that I get, whether it's from CDC, National Labor Relations Board, in regards to how we're going to take care of our employees. Because the question that they ask me when we say, well, am I covered by workers' comp? Right now, there are 10 states that have reported that they're going to take care of medical workers and first responders. And I don't know which 10 they are, because that was reported. But that's a concern for them. Now, it's almost like presumptive care, like cancer. That's something that you can say, well, it's part of what you're doing. So if you were exposed to a patient, we expect that you're going to be covered, but no one knows for sure. So that's a policy question. In addition, one of the big things about emergency management is that Katrina shows that you can't do it by yourself. You need the faith-based organizations. You should have a relationship with them. Faith-based, what they call non-governmental organizations, and sometimes it's referred to now collectively as CBO, community-based organizations. I was approached by two. Now, the reason they approached me is because I'm out. I go to the various churches, and it's because I believe it's my job to know these people, because I may need them. I may call on them, just to notify their congregation. Two pastors and Mr. I don't think he would mind, because he called me Mr. Davis, who's the general manager of the Best Western and Hampton Inn. And he just asked me some questions. He said, I've been trying to contact somebody, and this is so if it's a business in the city, then if they're not getting the answers they need, it's imperative that we as a city give them the answers regarding is it possible that my hotel is going to be turned into a hospital? It is very possible if this was to get to the worst of the worst, but they need to be plugged in. So my biggest thing is to make sure that we have information that's going out. I know what we're doing with LaToya is doing in conjunction with the Office of the City Manager on Facebook is great. Because when you look, one of the things, when you look at the statute, the state statute, and tell me my time, I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but I'm trying to answer your questions. The statute said that emergency management, the state is responsible under the state and the county, and we just have to be, well, whatever the county does. Well, my obligation to you, my obligation to the citizens is that, if you know better, you got to do better. And we can take care of them. It's not a cost associated. A lot of times it's just information. They want, if you're a business group, there should be a list and a communication, again, that goes out to them. So I think we're doing positive things. We're taking steps, but now make sure we take care of answering the employees' answers regarding their safety, especially when they're exposed. There's a bill right now that's going to be going before the Senate for the 14 days, whether there's going to be a tax credit. That's what they're looking at. IRS, if you pay the employee, if they're quarantined, which is a big possibility, I believe we've just had it in Wilson County, we quarantine our employees. Are we paying them or are we not? Do they have to leave their sick leave? Do they not? And if the IRS is giving you a tax credit, we have to know those. We should know those things and be telling them up front. Because when we don't tell them and give them the proper information, that adds anxiety on top of what they already have. And I'm going to stop there and see if there are any other questions. I've said a lot.
Chief, I've just got one question. Do we have enough hazmat suits, masks, when our firemen and our EMT, I know we don't have the EMT, but we have firemen. Do we have enough equipment to respond when we, the disposable,
Right, Tyvek suits. I understand. Yes, sir.
I don't know what it's called.
Yes, sir. And the answer to that is I don't know, because it's controlled by the cash will be controlled by the county. And I contacted the county. I copied the city manager on, I believe it was February the 26th, and just asked about, are we prepared? I have some questions, And, like, typically it is, hey, we're going to wait and see. Model of excellence isn't waiting and seeing. The model of excellence is I want to be proactive in making sure that, I do the best job that I can do for the citizens and certainly for the men and women around the state.
I just worry about them responding to.
We do have a plan. I mean, so there are steps in place when it comes to the PSAP, the Public Safety Answering Point. They pre-screen and they talk to what a patient doing. If EMS gets there, they don't need us. It's like we limit. If we only need one person, we send one person in and we cover their miles or cover the patient. So that, we try to limit our exposure. Of course, limit the time that we're close to the patient.
Thank you.
I got a couple of things. I guess it's really more, I guess, for Tim and Felicia. One thing is, I heard today that all the parks around us, Felicia, had closed their after-school activities, and that we were still running hours. Is that true? Not true?
So I'm going to try to answer your question, specifically as far as after-school activities. So for WA Foster Center, we do not have an after-school program there. What we have is a facility open for kids to come in after school. That's two different things. What we, as Parks Recreation here in Goldsboro, what we've started to do is we have postponed or canceled our programs for at least the next 2 weeks. Currently, though, we do still have WA Foster open as far as the gym, open play for adults, open play for kids. Our staff are closely monitoring the numbers, taking into account whether it's the 100, the 50, or now they're saying they just released the 10.
Well, if it's the 10, what are we going to do?
Well, if it's the 10, and if we're going to stick to the 10, then that's going to truly limit the number of people we let into the facility. Because, for instance, today, at one point, I think our highest count was 84, and that is at one time at WA Foster Center. But keep in mind, you had adults in the adult game room, you had kids in the gym, you had kids in the youth game room. And I actually pulled it up on camera, and it was not 84 people in the gym at one time. It wasn't even 50 kids in the gym at one time. They were all spread out.
And I don't know what the rule of 10 is. I'm sure y'all find out.
Well, we're going to find
Yeah,
out. But
well,
if it's
is it-
10, essentially you got to shut it down, and it's just employees being in the building, keeping
Yeah.
it up, so.
Okay. And then the other thing is, I just want to know, a lot of our employees have kids, and now with schools closing, are we doing anything to help them with their kids?
Yeah, we're trying to look into this telework policy. I've worked with Bernadette and HR. We've put one together, worked with IT, Scott Williams, and so I think we're going to have one to put out there, and we will support telework to the degree possible.
And what is that, do? I mean, I understand that's
I mean,
working from home.
if you can work from home, we would potentially
Where are you
enable
going,
that.
Felicia?
But if you can't work from home, if you're a public works person, we've got garbage to pick up, we've got water and sewer and those kinds of things that need to happen. So you would not be able to work from home, and you'd have to find daycare capabilities.
Well, and I guess my question is, and I understand we probably don't feel like we have that obligation, but we do have, I mean, kind of these are unusual circumstances. So are there anything we're doing, is there anything we can do or we are doing to help children or people, parents with kids? Or do y'all just don't need our help? I mean, I don't know.
Well, I haven't heard of any issues yet. I'm sure they're out there. I know there is a few issues out there, and we're working on the telecommuting for some of those people.
And you need to keep those babies in there for right now.
Yeah.
I would say, and I will say, several years ago, when we were not with COVID-19, but because of snow days, with school being out, and we were still coming into work, and this was probably a good 4 or 5 years ago, we as a Parks Recreation Department, we were offering for our leisure centers inside each of our rec centers, the kids' game rooms, to be open because our staff were there, where city employees could drop their kids off for us to watch them during the day so they knew they would be in a safe, secure place while they were working. No one took us up on it. We got several calls and emails. Again, this was 4 or 5 years ago, and I know times have changed because I have a kid myself now. But at that time, we got several calls and emails from employees stating they appreciated the service we were offering, but at that point in time, they didn't need us because they either had a grandparent or they stayed home themselves.
Well, I just want to be sure we're cognizant that,
We'll take a look at it. I mean, that's a possibility if we're going to close the facilities, that people who were running parks and recs could potentially do some sort of daycare, I guess, but they're obviously not trained in that. So
But we're not specifically trained in daycare, but we are trained in having kids and, playing games and stuff with them,
Yeah,
keeping them
I mean, a
active.
certain age,
So, and that's the thing, it was school-age kids. I failed to mention that earlier. It was specific for school-age kids because that's who we pretty much catered to for our summer day camps, our spring break camps.
Right.
And so it was for school-age kids.
Let's say some of these facilities have many rooms. Do you see where we could put 9 kids and an adult in a room, and that way you have your 10? Or would that mean if you had 5 rooms, you got 50? I mean,
Yeah, I think that's what you gotta find out, is it 10 per location or 10 per grouping? And I don't think we know that right now. I don't think we know that.
And that's why we were, again, looking earlier at what our numbers were and how were they spread out. Because, again, going into the day, our staff was very cognizant of not getting close to that 100 number specifically in the gym, because our gym can hold well over 100. But we never came close to it.
All right. The last thing I got just is the county sent an email about, or the schools did, about 4 o'clock. They're starting to feed the kids tomorrow. They're feeding kids from 11 to 1. They've got 10 schools. It's on their website. Melissa's got it, and she's gonna send it out. So just if anybody, because I've had several people ask me, what about the kids? So, it looks like they've got that figured out. And I'm sure there'll be some hiccups, but at least they're working on it and trying to do that. And other than that, I think we just all need to work together and stay calm, Mike.
Just because if you don't mind, I know, but just since you'll like this one, Mr. Mayor, because you
Go
mentioned
ahead.
that another vulnerable population is the elders. So we have the kids, and the kids are the carriers. They're the ones that, they're not really feeling the results, but they're carrying the stuff around.
Right.
But they have basically quarantined whole senior home. So maybe we need to look at this is the county supposed to be doing it, but a feeding program for some of our elders in the city that can't get meals because they don't supposed to be out in the general public. So that's one of those
And
things.
that's why I think it's important we bring it up so that people do know their resources and they can come to us or wherever.
Yes, sir.
I just don't think that we're not working.
I have a
All right,
question.
thank you.
Sir, may I be excused, Councilor Zakob, for legal ramifications?
Well, yeah, somebody needs to make a motion. Does anybody care if Councilman Williams is excused from this next presentation?
No.
Well, then make a motion, please.
I make a move that Councilman Williams be excused from the next presentation.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. You're excused, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, item C is the home program and grant opportunity.
Good evening again, Mayor and City Council.
Good evening.
In light of some changes, when I say changes, I mean as far as interested parties in the home money, I decided to come before you all with proposals of agencies that we would like to seek funding for CHODO, which is called Community Housing Development Organization. It's an activity under HUD. Typically, this is designed to be where it's on the staff level that we decide who receives the CHODO. But as I stated, because of the nature of how this year the interested parties and to ensure that there was no favoritism or conflict of interest, I wanted to bring it before the council. For the new members, just to let you all know, through our department, you receive 2 funding sources through HUD. One is called your Community Development Block Grant, which can go towards an array of activities. Your second one is your home money. Home money is typically geared towards just affordable housing. Affordable housing can be construction of affordable housing, the rental of single family, acquisition, which is through a home buyer assisted program where we assist citizens to purchase homes, or you can rehab an owner occupied home or a rental occupied home so it stays affordable. Because we all know that there's a substandard home, there's constant repairs that can be where the home is no longer affordable to the homeowner. And all of this is to serve your low to moderate income residents of Goldsboro. So just keep in mind, home funds can only be used towards housing. So that's where I want to speak to you about this. And one of the things that we typically have a big ticket item of people buying for the CHODO money, as I told you all. which is allowing nonprofit organizations who focus on creating and maintaining affordable housing in your jurisdiction for us to be able to provide them annual funding. They have to submit an application, we review the application, we ensure everything meets HUD standards. I even go an extra step where I consult all of the applicants with my, applications with my HUD rep. As I stated, I'm adding the extra piece, which is bringing it before you all this time. But we try to make sure we maximize your dollars. We do not frequently give your money out. I do not try to spread the wealth because that does not create wealth. So we try to maximize you all's dollars. The city of Goldsboro has been receiving this fund since 1994. In your package, what I've done is I wanted to give you all a projection, a conservative projection of what is your available home funds. And what I've done is I went into the HUD system, which is called IDIS. This is your integrated banking system with HUD. This tells me everything for every bank account, for any activity, your grants, array of things. So as you all can see from your presentation, you have 4 years now that has funding in it. And that funding balance in IDIS equal to a little over $500,000. So if you want to do a projection of the next 3 years of what type of programs you can fund, what I decided to do was do a conservative 2-year projection. Keeping in mind that we're doing the census. One of the things I didn't mention earlier is your home allocation and CDBG allocation is based off of your census data. So if you have a low turnout of census, you're going to get a low allocation. If you have a high turnout of census, it will increase the city of Goldsboro allocation that we receive from HUD. So what I did was just try to think that we would stay at the same pace of our census population information, and provided you all that a projected allocation for FY 2021 will probably be a little over $200,000. And then I said for FY 21-22 will be $182,000. Keeping in mind, you have to take out for admin, which is 10%, and I've deducted a little over $38,000, which makes the 2 years conservative projection to be $344,000. If you add that up, you all are looking at that you projecting that you may have between now and FY 21-22 $869,000. And that you can allocate towards housing projects, housing activities, whether it's a developer or it's individual households where we have people apply for assistance with down payment and closing so they can purchase their first home, or homeowners that apply for assistance and say, hey, I need a roof and I need help, that you can utilize this money for. In the next slide, you'll see that these are the proposals that we have received thus far. In your package that went out, or the agenda packet went out, at the time I did not have Rebuilding Broken Places information. I was able to receive that after your agenda package went out, so I have updated my slide. It may not be updated in your information, I'm not for sure. But I will tell you, as of right now, you have received 4 proposals for buying for your home funds to do what is called CHODO activity. Again, that's Community Housing Development Organizations activity, creating or maintaining affordable housing. The Housing Authority has submitted a proposal called Park Court for, that they say the projected cost of the project is $5 million, and the number of units is 48. Rental, there are 2 bedrooms. I will tell you they are existing, that they're planning on rehabbing, and if you all would like to know, they're right behind Goldsboro High School. That they're planning on rehabbing these existing units, and you have the address there, which is 1123 Maple Street. The proposed rent is $756. They're requesting $375,000 worth of home. I will tell you that when you use home money for multifamily construction, you have to designate so much of the money that goes in. We get a unit back that's considered a designated home unit for the city of Goldsboro. So if they get $375,000, the minimum units Of the 48 that they're rehabbing that we can classify as a designated city home unit would be 3. They say they have a little over $4.6 million of other funding, and their gap funding is the $375,000 that they're asking. Any questions? Guys, see some faces. I didn't know you.
Yeah, my concern was, you saying single family, like explain single family to me, because I'm looking at 2 bedrooms and then I'm thinking affordable housing, I'm looking at rent that's $756.
The housing authority is rental. They're not single family. That
Okay.
first row?
Okay.
Yeah, the housing authority is rental, so that means it would be apartments for them. And typically in HUD, we say multifamily.
Okay.
Single family, when I get to those are where they're doing the actual units of housing units, single family housing units that you can purchase. They're not apartments, they're single dwelling.
So,
Go ahead.
I have a question. What is this rental rate based off of? Because my wife actually used to live in those apartments, and they were nowhere near 756.
I will tell you that that is what the housing authority has provided to us as their proposed rental.
Wow.
All this information is, I gathered from the proposal that was submitted by the agencies. Tiffany Garden LLC, which is another thing that will come up even later in this discussion, is a tax credit project. You remember DFI came and talked to you all during your retreat about how cities try to leverage with developers to get the low-income housing tax credits to create more affordable housing, and it's the most efficient way, cost-efficient way to do that. Well, we have a tax credit project here that the department has been working with through MC Morgans and Associate, and as I stated, it's the Tiffany Garden. At first, it was a $12 million, exactly $12.5 million project with 84 units, new. But what we've done is, because of the financing, I'm not sure if we'll get all the tax credit, we've given you all a minimum that we're going to go after is 72, but we're going to try to get the 84 units for you if we can get all of the tax credits. So right now, the proposal shows 72 new rental apartments. They are going to be 12 one-bedrooms, and this can change, this structure. So it might be we do more 2 bedrooms, more 3 bedrooms, but right now you got 12 one-bedroom, 29 2-bedroom, and 31 3-bedrooms. These are going to create new housing. Remember, if it hasn't been stated, Goldsboro has a shortage of housing, affordable housing. The housing authority units are already existing units that's already counted. So this is not going to create new housing for you. But this is going to be off of Central Heights Road. And what I've done is, because these are tax credit apartments, the rent are restricted. North Carolina Housing Finance Agency and the federal government restricts what the rent can be based off of the bedroom size and the family household. So anyone that makes 80% or below the area median income can afford these apartments. So a 2-bedroom, the minimum of a 2-bedroom for these units will be $500. And that is very rare for a 2-bedroom apartment in Goldsboro.
Tiffany Garden already have apartments there, and this is going to be a new apartment.
This will be new. What you might be remembering is April 1st of last year, you all approved the zoning for that to have no more than 84 units if they were able to get tax credit. So that,
But also, there's a Tiffany Gardens on Central Heights Road that he's seen, and this is further down on a new piece of land. But you've seen where Tiffany.
It's almost where the daycare is in Thoroughfare Road.
yes,
Fairfield
Fairfield Road,
Road and the daycare.
yeah. Like I said, I'll get to that too, I'm so sorry. But they're asking for $500,000, and I'm gonna tell you why. When you all were spoken to by DFI, they talked about the partnerships with local government. We've done this before. When you can show that you've got the buy-in of the local government and they're giving some type of subsidy, it increases you being able to get the tax credit. I will tell you that when I did this in 2013, we did a senior, because back then we didn't have enough senior. We needed some more senior apartments. We did a 60-unit apartment complex with a developer who went after tax credit. We only gave them $300,000 worth of home money and got that tax credit project. And I will tell you, since 2014, when they finished construction, they have been at full capacity and they have a waiting list. So these are the way that the bigger cities have increase their affordable housing and maximize their dollars to the best benefit, especially when it's the federal dollars at the local level. You also have received a proposal from Habitat. Habitat has traditionally been who we've always funded through the city of Goldsboro for single housing, because I will tell you there's not many in Goldsboro based off of the underwriting requirements that can afford a single family housing. They cannot afford meet the underwriting requirements to be able to purchase a home. So your other avenue is Habitat. They have a more relaxed underwriting requirement, and therefore they can put a low to moderate income person in a single family housing much quicker than going through a traditional bank. So we typically do one house. Well, they submitted a proposal to do 2 homes. And as I've showed you all, they're single family. The price of one home is $95,000, the other one is $100,000. These will be 2 new units. One will be a 3-bedroom, the other one will be a 5-bedroom. They are looking at asking for no more than $70,000 for the construction. All of our funds goes towards construction. For the Tiffany Garden, that is all towards construction. The Housing Authority has requested their funding for lead and asbestos abatement of the property that they acquired, which is Park Court. And as you can see, the other funding that the Housing Authority is proposing is $125 for both homes. And that's traditionally, they do a lot of donations, and the land is donated to them. So, you know, they do get some what we call SHOP money, which is another HUD source that provides them some money. And they get some money from North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, also to leverage with the construction. The fourth and final proposal you all have received, where the city has received, is rebuilding broken places for their faith estate. The proposed project cost is $200,000. They are proposing 6 units out of this $200,000 of single family. They're saying that they will be 3 bedrooms. Of course, if this was to come to fruition, these will be new units, not existing. It will increase your housing stock if possible. They will be on Orange Street, 4 lots on Orange Street, 2 lots on Lime Street. And as you can see, they're saying that the proposed sale price would be $141,000. I just want to stress to you all, very similar with Habitat, is similar with rebuilding broken places. These are the values before the appraised value. They will increase. They always do. So this is not the end target of what this house is going to sell for. So I just want you all to know that. And they are proposing, like I said, they're asking for $200,000. They are proposing that you're going to get 6 units out of this, and that they have other funding of $48,000. I will explain to you what that's proposing. That you're going to give them $200,000 up front. They're going to flip that first house. That's if they can sell it for what they are planning on flipping it for, and then just keep flipping the next house to make the next 6 units. The next 5 units. They have said that their $48,000 is the value of the 6 lots. They're valued at $8,000, so they're going to consider that like a deferred loan. So technically speaking, this is not actual funding towards the construction of the home. You'll be doing all the funding towards the construction. We typically don't do that.
But I don't see how they're gonna build a house for $33,000. What am I missing?
Well, like I said, they requested $200,000 to build one house, and then the intent is to possibly flip that first house, to build the next one, then flip that one.
You said $200,000 to build 6 houses.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. They're saying that they can build one, and then they will build the next one after they sell the first one. Is what I got in writing confirmed from them.
So they're for sale, not for rent.
For sale.
They're trying to sell.
Sell it.
Well, in talking to Mr. Barnes, they have a stringent vetting process, whereas they make sure the candidate is eligible by the banks before they even get into the room as far as the conversation. So I think that they would be able to sell the house. I mean, I think that's pretty much concrete. And he was explaining to me also that they kind of like in quantity, if the developer has a massive project instead of an individualized project, then their supplies are, I mean, I know you're a contractor, but you know, he said that in quantity, they would be able to do it, whereas if they just build one and then come back months later to do another one, they're kind of going to build them in a massive.
I'm hearing 2 different things.
Yeah, but that's not what they provided in the proposal they submitted. It was they're going to build the first home then build the next one after they sell that first home. Now, I will tell you, if they're using the same underwriting requirements as the bank, and we utilize the same underwriting to provide down payment assistance, we're finding that there's a limited number of people being able to qualify just to be able to get our down payment assistance to qualify. I can imagine that they will have that ease of a application process to get them homeowners as well. So if they're pulling from the same market of the banks,
Right, okay.
that's.
All right, so what are you
So-
asking for?
I will tell you, what I've done is, I've given you all recommendations of home funds. As I stated, typically this is done at staff level, but I'm bringing it before the council. Recommendation 1 is what I call the traditional safe way spread the wealth. Doesn't mean you're maximizing your dollars. Doesn't mean you're preparing for what could happen down the road. It just means we're doing the safe thing right now to spread the wealth so that maybe we don't upset anyone that's provided a funding thing, but it does not cover you down the road. What you will see that is recommendation 1 is you fund housing authority for at least $275,000. The Tiffany Garden, the $500,000, because that is needed to leverage for the tax credit. And then you fund the Habitat for Humanity for $70,000 for the construction, and then $24,000, which would be $12,000 for each home for the down payment assistance for the homeowner to get that as well to make the home even more affordable. Because the more money that we leverage in, the more the cost of that home goes down if it's construction or down payment assistance. Recommendation 2 is you could fund 2 multifamily projects, and you would fund the housing authority at $369,000, still do Tiffany Garden at $500,000, or you can go with recommendation 3, which is you fund 1 multifamily so that you don't deplete all of your home funds, and then you fund Habitat so that you got a mixture of single family and multifamily. So you can say you're hitting 2 target markets. I will tell you that recommendation 3, after consulting, having internal departments discussion and with HUD, staff recommendation, but of course, because I'm bringing it before the council, it is you all recommendation I will be leaning on this time. The staff recommendation is number 3. As I stated, spreading the wealth is safe. Now, it ain't upsetting anybody, but it does not safeguard the city of Goldsboro. If you have another development deal that's going to bring more housing, which we need to increase, we're not increasing our affordable housing, and we're losing it at the same time. So you've got to do a strategy that is maximizing your dollars, leaving you with some little bit of a revenue after the fact that you can keep putting in projects. But as I said, this is up to the council.
So that would give us 74 new units.
Can you go back to the first?
Yes, ma'am. This right here with a minimum of 72 if you go with Tiffany Garden. So if you add the Tiffany Garden and you do recommendation 3, which is Tiffany Garden and Habitat, you get a minimum of 74, but it could be a maximum of 86. So we're going to try to build it up to 86 and we can get all of the tax credits. And
That's 756.
so I really would like to get council's feedback, and I need to be able to proceed, because I will tell you that these agencies are looking to move forward. I will tell you the Housing Authority has somewhat moved forward with their procurement process. Tiffany Garden cannot move forward until this is determined, which later on is a commitment letter if you all decide to fund Tiffany Garden so that we can utilize it to get the tax credit and build these apartments. There's a commitment letter I'm going to be presenting to you all.
Would you put your options
Yes.
slide back up, please?
I'll go right back to you.
Nicole, can you clarify your timeline that you need a decision by in order to get the grants in?
Well, for the Tiffany Garden, I would like for council we really need a decision by April the 20th, that we're trying to just submit for the deadline to North Carolina Housing Finance Agents for the tax credit. So if you don't make a decision on Tiffany Garden, you could possibly make it at your April first or second meeting, whichever one it is, but if you have the information before you, I hope I've given you enough time and also explained this that you can understand to make a sound, fiscal, responsible decision that we can maybe try to lock it down today, what we're gonna do and not hold these agencies in limbo of what's gonna happen.
Why did
Got
you,
two questions. One question is on Tiffany Gardens. And I've been involved with other tax credit. Is there not some payback?
Well, that will be what I'm gonna propose to you all if you go with Tiffany Garden, a loan structure where we're being paid back. Now, I will tell you, with the Housing Authority and Housing Authority and Habitat, we're not being paid. There's never been a proposal on the table to be paid back. But the Tiffany Garden, if you want to move forward with it, I have made a proposal for you all to receive a payback and do it in a 2% loan.
Councilman Henry, you have a question?
yeah, I do. So why did you eliminate the Housing Authority in your recommendation 3?
Well, I submitted an email to the Housing Authority, and I've asked everyone to give me a concrete answer, do you really need this funding? CDBG and home funding is supposed to be your last resort. It's not supposed to substitute funding. That's the rule for us as far as the city, and we apply that to our agencies as well. We are here to leverage, not allow you not to utilize your fund. There is some conception that the Housing Authority has funding that they can utilize. I did submit an email to Mr. Goodson asking if you were not funding, was there other funding you can use? And if so, if there's not other funding, is it because of the restrictive usage of those funds that why you can't use it and that's why you need to utilize this fund? And I haven't received a reply back. Everyone else, with Habitat traditionally, they could go forward and do one of these houses and just don't do this other one until next year. But another reason why I did the third recommendation is because if you go with recommendation 1 and 2, I have conservatively told you that you're going to have a little over $800,000 for the next, let's say, the next 3 years. If you count your reserves that you count it this year, next year allocation, then FY 2022 allocation. These first two deplete your home funds. You will not have any money to do any down payment assistance. If someone comes available, a low-income family that wants to purchase a home, it will all be for multifamily. And if the housing, I will tell you, before Tiffany Garden submitted, the Housing Authority, if Tiffany Garden would have submitted, the Housing Authority would be what I would recommend top down to you all because it's still some type of multifamily. And I would still tell you to do a hybrid of multifamily, single family with the Habitat. But because you have the Tiffany Garden and you're going to maximize your dollars and you're getting this money back that you could put into projects, it's to me, as a practitioner, makes more common sense to do one multifamily and a hybrid of the single family. And then you still have money in your reserves. You don't deplete it all.
One thing, I'd like to point two things out, and I'm on the Housing Authority Board, and I appreciate what the Housing Authority does. They have really come in and bought some private stuff, redoing it. They've torn down some of the stuff in their, some of their units that weren't good. So they really do good stuff. But I can tell you, the Housing Authority has the money to complete this project. I mean, it's just, I'm sure they do. I've seen their books. I know that they have the money. I think if they can use our money, they would rather. But the other thing I think is real important that I'm not sure, and you may have said this and I might have just missed it. I think one thing y'all need to know, if you don't, is we, the city, can also use this money in doing stuff of our own. We can go in your district and fix 2 houses or buy 2 houses, or your district or whatever. So I don't want to lose sight that, we can also do our own improvements as well, with this money. So to spend it all at one time, I don't think makes good sense. I think if you don't do you gotta do the multi-use one, or he's not gonna get his money, which hurts us, because we need to do units. But, to me, I like our option 3.
And I'll tell you, the Housing Authority, like I said, they're great. If it wasn't for the Tiffany Garden, I would be hands down recommending for you all to do the housing authority because you're doing some type of multifamily, even though it's not creating new, it's trying to assist with maintaining affordable housing. But when you take into account new affordable housing, and I can tell you, I stay in a 2-bedroom, and I pay $950, and a family can get in a 2-bedroom for a minimum of $500. You cannot change the impact that changes in generational lives for families and children.
Is there you have a question?
Well, comment, I've seen your presentation of Tiffany Gardens. I know where the location is. I've seen the plans for it. I fully support Tiffany Gardens, but also am concerned about cutting the housing authority out of this because we have a long partnership with them. And while they may have money, they requested money. And so whether or not that's a valid request, I can't speak to that. But they did request, and they leverage for $500,000 or $375,000, you're leveraging 58 units to be built. 48.
Yeah, you're leveraging 48 units, but there are existing units that he's rehabbing regardless if you get your money.
And I'm looking at 756. I can go ask the average working person, they cannot afford $756 in rent every month.
I think all that's is adjusted by the market. I mean, that's all adjusted. It's not.
Well, his is market rate. This is not based off of income. What the minimum market will allow him to do.
Just from looking at it, we'll get the most units, we'll get housing that's affordable, and I don't see where, I think that Tiffany Gardens is by far the one we need to fund, and Habitat,
Was that a motion
so move.
for number 3? To approve number 3.
Before we proceed, I have one question also.
Go ahead.
The people that are possibly going to be displaced due to the buyout, South John Street and all those people, those apartments down there, where would they fit into the equation as far as housing if they were to be bought out? I mean, those are a lot of units.
If they own the house, then they'll get a new house, right?
Right.
I mean, if everything goes like it's, so if they owned it, well, who's hurting down there are the renters.
Right.
Because where are they gonna go?
That's what my question. In Alabama
Most of them, I
town,
think, have gone somewhere by now.
But then it does give them the option though,
Right.
if they can't qualify for a mortgage loan, that they can go into these new units.
Gotcha.
Okay, just because you bought out don't mean you can take that money and you can qualify the underwriting. Underwriting is
exactly.
strenuous now.
Right.
Any more questions?
Thanks.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise? 5-1, Melissa, that's what I got. All right, thank you, Scott.
The next thing is I have to, because you all are doing the Tiffany Garden, I have to go over and I'm not going over this whole thing with you all, but the terms of the commitment letter. The commitment letter is structured as such that it is a 2% loan. It's going to be amortized over, and I have that for you all so you can see the example. It's going to be amortized over a 30-year loan, but it's due in 20 years. That is typically how we do it when we structure homes. Because we only need the unit to stay affordable under HUD standards for 20 years. But we amortize out 30 years to make the payments lower for the developer. It's a 2% loan on the $500,000. We are proposing to defer the first 5 payments for the developer, first 5 years. On the 6th year, they will start making a payment of, if we do the 2%, a little over $22,000 a year back to the city. On the 20th year, that is a final lump sum payment. And I've told you all up here what that final lump sum payment will be. That you all, on top of your little over $22,000 that you're going to be receiving annually, that at the end of the 20 years, which is the maturity, not the 30, stated 30 is just amortized, so the payment could be lower. The 20-year, the lump sum payment will be $332,000 you all will receive. So you are going to receive your $500,000 plus $165,000 back if you go with the 2% loan for Tiffany Garden. I will tell you that in some cases, you can do where you do one lump sum at the end of the 20 years and don't get payments annually. I'm not proposing that to this council. I am proposing that you get some type of annual payment. I will tell you the developer would like to see a 0.5%. And what I've done is I've given you on the second page what a 1% loan and a 0.5% loan would be in return for you. 1% will give you a payment of, the first one is the 0.5%. If you go with the developer asking for a 0.5%, we'll give you let's say $18,000 annually, a lump sum at the end of the 20 of $269,000. Again, I would not propose the city to do a 0.5%. There is a 1% proposal that you all could consider, which will give you $19,000 every year back of your home money. And then on the 20th year, you would get a lump sum of a little over $289,000. So I've provided you all of that information in there.
Is the front page, that's the 2%, right?
That's the 2%. That is what
you're
I'm
recommending?
That is what staff is recommending, and we can negotiate, between now and submitting the tax credit. The developer may ask, hey, I know the council approved the 2%, can I please plead for maybe a 1.5? We would bring that back to you to see if you want to amend it. But I will tell you the way that it's structured now, I feel very confident in the way that we've structured the financing of this to be a loan to be repayable back to you.
Cole, could you briefly describe why this 2% and the way you structured it is right? I mean, you're going off examples that HUD has done with other places, plus there's all kinds of administrative costs that you're going to have to oversee.
Yes, and also, whenever we do, the main reason, top of the board, why? Whenever we do homeowner rehabilitation out of home to a homeowner, the most we charge them is 2%. If their income is above a certain level, we have always traditionally, since 1994, charged our homeowners 2%. So why not charge a developer 2%?
Is this something we need to vote on tonight?
Well, the fact that you all have committed to Tiffany Garden, I need to know, do you commit
It's
to?
a yes or no?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is there a motion to pass this at 2%?
Motion,
There's my motion.
interest
Is
rate
there a
of
second?
2%.
What? At 2%.
2%.
Is there a second?
I'll second too.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed likewise.
We'll be
I'm
lucky if we
so
went to
sorry, I
zero
didn't
today.
show you all the rendering of what they will look like,
Rate went to zero.
which is very similar to the traditional, like behind Lowe's and the ones that are not tax credit. Just a brief, I am applying for grants, so if I can receive some grant funding, it might leverage us not to have to spend as much home dollars, which I can bring back to you all to maybe see if you can fund some additional projects. But I just want to tell you all that. I am trying to seek other funding for some other grants. Is there any other questions? Because I've held you up long enough.
You've held us up, thank you. Good presentation, we appreciate it. All right, so next we got item D, boards and commissions discussion.
Good evening,
Hey,
Mayor.
can somebody cut the lights on, please? Can't see. Thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Currently, there's a vacancy on the Local Firefighters Relief Fund, the Historic District Commission, and a vacancy on the Golf Course Committee. A list of applications that were received are in your packet for your consideration and review. If council would like to make appointments, if you guys would give us your recommendations, we would bring back a resolution for you to adopt at your next meeting.
So what is, like on the Goldsboro Historic District Commission, you've got a yellow, one person is lined in yellow, what is that?
That's your vacancy.
That's the vacancy.
And that just lists who your current members are.
And so who is our options there? Who do I see
Ms.
that?
Ms. Lancaster, Ms. Stevenson, and Ms. Oliver.
where are you looking? Well, I also don't want to write
This is for which commission?
That's the
Historical.
historic district.
Okay, I got you.
And what you have done in the past is your alternates, you've chosen from those to actually move up to your regular appointments, and then you would fill the vacancy of the alternate,
That was her
is what
second
you've
choice.
typically done in the past.
I don't know, but second choice.
Well, I know that initially, Ms. Stevenson, she was one of the individuals that was a first choice for the historical committee. You know, we lost Ms. Jacobs, and so I don't have a problem with Ms. Stevenson if the council doesn't have a problem with her.
I don't have a problem.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, and she would serve as one of your alternates? So-
Yes.
Okay, which one of your alternates would you guys consider moving up? That way we have direction.
appointed somewhere.
Well, it looks to me like we're not replacing Ravonda with her?
No, you would move up, if that's what you decide to do. In the past, you've moved your alternates because they're non-voting members unless you don't have a quorum, then they would be counted towards that quorum.
Because Ms.
So she's not there.
Yeah, Ms. Jacobs, she was the chair, so we're going to be moving up somebody else, and then this individual will be an alternate.
Will be what?
An alternate.
An alternate.
Whoever
we
we,
have to put
whoever
an
we
alternate?
appoint.
But why, I don't understand why you don't have, well, my question is, you not need a member? You need an alternate? Is that what y'all saying?
Well, they will be a member, but they just won't be able to vote unless we don't have a quorum.
And then do we need an alternate? Go ahead, straighten me out.
Due to Ms. Jacobs' passing, I suggest if you do fill her seat, to fill out her term. And just leave the alternates as is.
Okay.
Let this, since, I mean,
Okay.
it was unfortunate that
So
she
can we let
passed.
Ms. Ciderum just fill out her term then?
Yes.
Okay. All right, is everybody good with that?
Okay.
Well, somebody needs to make a motion. We need a motion now, right? Or on the next round?
If there's a consensus, then I will just bring you back a resolution.
Okay.
Everybody good? Okay, all right. All right, then you said Recreation Advisory Board or Commission?
And the municipal golf course, and we don't have any applications to date.
For the golf course,
Right.
So nothing changes.
okay?
And your local firefighters relief fund, we have one is Miss Crystal Harden.
Is that on here?
Yeah, if that's the only one, I mean,
That's fine.
Oh, I see it there, okay. Is everybody okay with that?
yeah.
Okay? All
Okay,
right.
well, we will bring those back to your next meeting, and if you could, just kind of see if you can solicit any applications for the golf course committee.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
GWTA appointment. Councilmember Williams resigned from the GWTA, so we need to put a new member on there. And I think Mr. Aycock, you had mentioned you might do it.
Well, I know it'd be an inconvenience to our two newer members because it meets at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I have been on it before, and I don't mind going back on it. I mean, if that's the wishes of the council.
Fine with me. I don't care. Thank you.
Randy, y'all have any desire to be on it?
No, sir.
Okay. Is there, we need a motion to make Mr. Aycock the member then?
I make the motion that we let Mr. Gene Aycock be the official on the GWCA board.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, likewise. Motion carries. All right. Next, we got public records, policy and procedures.
Yes, sir.
City manager.
I sent council a proposed policy for public records requests, which defines public records, clarifies procedures, and establishes costs associated with producing requested documents. Recently, a citizen requested 18 months of emails from a director and emails to this director from city leaders, such as council, mayor, attorney, manager, and certain directors. IT, our information technology department, spent over 9 hours pulling over 343,000 emails. We now have to ensure these emails are a public record and not of personal or personnel-related or other types of issues that cannot be released to the public. So in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 132, Tax 6.2, Bravo, authorities, which authorizes public agencies to charge a special service charge for requests involving extensive use of information technology resources or extensive clerical and/or supervisory assistance. If a request will take more than 4 hours, the city will charge a reasonable fee, which is $33 to $157 per hour in excess of the initial 4 hours, to search, locate, collect, sort, copy, and prepare the records to be produced. A cost estimate would be provided to the requester, and approval and payment will be obtained prior to responding to the request. If costs exceed the estimate, the requester will be notified, and additional approval and payment will be obtained prior to completion of the request. As I had previously said, when we need to prepare this kind of documentation, it needs to be reviewed by the clerk or myself or the city attorney, which is fairly expensive. In this case, if it takes an estimated 1 minute per email, that is over 5,700 hours of work, or 2 years and 9 months of work for one person. This is what I would call excessive. I request your approval for the draft policy or your comments. Thank you.
Any questions, comments, thoughts?
Yes, I have some comments. According to General Statute 132-6, inspection, examinations, and copies of public record. Every custodian of public records shall permit any record in the custodian's custody to be inspected and examined at reasonable times and under reasonable supervision by any person, and shall, as promptly as possible, furnish copies thereof upon payment of any fees as may be prescribed by law, as used herein. Custodian does not mean an agency that holds the public records of other agencies solely for purposes of storage or safekeeping, or solely to provide data processing. No request, and this is 132-6C, no request to inspect, examine, or obtain copies of public records shall be defined on the grounds that confidential information is commingled with the request non-confidential information. If it is necessary to separate confidential from non-confidential information in order to permit the inspection, examination, or copying of the public records, the public agency shall bear the cost of such separation. So we cannot charge people because we have things that are mixed up in the emails.
So what we have is two separate general statutes that are inconsistent. Ron may want to talk to this a little bit, but he's contacted several different people as well as I have, and this has not been taken to court yet. So this could potentially be a legal change with our local legislature or eventually go to court. Given such extensive costs, that may be what we want to do. Ron, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would say that Tim's right in that regard. The statutes, there is some inconsistency there. There's not any case law that says what you can or can't charge, but it does say in that statute that if it requires extensive use. Then again, it's not defined what extensive use is, but it's almost one of those things you know it when you see it. And so in those particular circumstances, the statute says you can charge. So it's up to the council for y'all to decide what kind of policy you want to put into place. If you want to charge, you don't want to charge. I think the authority is there that it can be charged. If somebody wanted to challenge that, there's also a arbitration provision in there that allows the person to appeal it to the state level and have the state office determine, oh, is this going to be a reasonable fee or not? So that option is there once the person's given the estimate. And they could say, okay, I think this is excessive. And if there's not an agreement between the city and that person, then again, that person can appeal that and say, hey, I want this reviewed then by the state office to see if it is, if they say it's reasonable, kind of arbitrate the issue.
Can we get a clear, definition or
of the state statute before we prematurely vote on this? I mean, that to me would be the sensible thing to do, but,
Y'all can read the statute. The problem is that there's not a case to interpret it yet. And that's why there's not a clear reading. So it's still left up for interpretation. At some point, somebody will challenge it for some jurisdiction that charges somebody, and then the courts will take it up and make a decision. Until that happens, the legislature hasn't specifically defined it.
Well, how about let's do this, let Melissa send everybody a copy of it, if you'll get it to Melissa, or you can send everybody a copy, whoever, I don't care, so that we at least have it. And then if you have any recommendations or thoughts, or why you think something's right, not right, or whatever, I mean, certainly you can put that in there, and then we'll just take it up next time, and that gives everybody time to look at it. Is that okay?
I mean, I think we also too need to define excessive. I mean, I don't think we should charge at all, but the word excessive could also be left to interpretation. So what is your definition of
You're right.
excessive?
Well, we've checked with some other agencies, and I think the state went by 4 hours of work, so we've far exceeded that already. That's why we put in this draft policy 4 hours.
The governor put together a policy for 4 hours. That's what they deem to be extensive.
Can we have a copy of that too?
Could we have a copy of the request that we've got and what would it cost the city?
Yeah, so the charges are in there, are basically the average information technology technician pulling the information is about $33 an hour, as well as for our city clerk, and then it goes up to $157, which would be the cost of our legal advisor, city attorney. Somewhere in there would be other potential costs that we'd have to figure out as we go.
I mean, have y'all been able to even come up with an estimate for the request, or what y'all think it would be?
I have not estimated
I think
the
the
cost.
problem at the first level is that, at least in my opinion about how it should be handled, would be the clerk would go through it first, pick out things that are obviously personal, set aside things that are questionable, whether or not they're personnel or whether or not they're exempt in some other regard. And then once that's done, then it goes for me to review it to see. So at this point, I got no idea out of that number of emails that have been identified as to what that could be.
I ran by 5,700 hours by $33 an hour just for the clerk to go through it, and that's $188,000.
Oh, no, expensive clerk.
Yeah, we clearly need to kind of narrow the focus of the search.
All right, so we'll work on, you're gonna distribute that to everybody, and then we'll work on that hopefully next week, over the next 2 weeks, and talk about it at our next meeting.
And this is just for citizens that want to get copies of information.
Right, and anybody who wants to get a copy.
Anybody.
But most
So
people
you're
don't.
saying council as well, if we want to find out information, you're saying that this applies to us too?
Yes.
It cannot, because we are the gatekeepers for the citizens. We are the gatekeepers to make sure that there's transparency in place. That's illegal.
Ron, you had a thought on that?
Well,
As to whether a council member...
An individual council member,
work
when an individual council member makes a request for public record, they're treated as a citizen. The council as a whole wants to vote, and they want to review the records, then y'all can go into closed session and review those records as a whole, as a council, and make that request, but individual member itself is treated as a citizen.
What statute is that?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can get it to you.
Well, you always say, well, get it to me, I never get it.
I do get it to you.
Thank you.
All right, anything from anybody else? Not, we'll be recessed till 7 o'clock.
Consent agenda.
What?
Consent agenda.
Did you want to go cover any consent agenda items?
I really didn't. No, I'm just kidding, we need to, yeah.
Okay.
Item F. They all thought they were leaving, look, they were all excited.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So the first item that I have is for the approval of the stage construction at the Hub. At the council retreat on February the 26th, Assistant Manager Randy Guthrie presented a proposal to construct the Hub, the stage at the Hub while the construction contractor is still mobilized. That cost was approximated at $419,000, and I was asked to prepare the ordinance so that we could move forward with that project. So I've prepared a special revenue fund ordinance amendment to appropriate $300,000, which will be made up of money from the general fund of $100,000, the downtown special district fund, $100,000, an NC Department of Commerce Rural Center grant of $100,000, which has already been received, and we're going to reduce expenditures of $119,000, which will approximate the amount of sales tax on the construction project to come up with the funding of the $419,000. And I also have attached an operating budget amendment ordinance to appropriate the monies out of the actual operating funds, and that will be out of the general fund and the special district fund, $100,000 each. And then finally, I have attached a resolution where council authorizes a change order to the contract with TA Loving in the amount of $419,000 for the construction of the stage.
Any questions?
Yeah, can you list those four again? I have general fund, you said 100.
Yes, sir.
And what were the other three?
The downtown special district fund, $100,000. And then there's an NC Department of Commerce Rural Center grant that we received back at the beginning of the new fiscal year of $100,000. And then the balance will be a reduction of expenditures because we get a sales tax refund on construction materials that are purchased.
And just so you know, there's $250,000 in the budget, the state budget, that was supposed to be for this, but the state budget hasn't passed yet. So once the budget passes, we'll get the money, and then we can either apply it back to one of those accounts or do something else with it, whatever. So that's the whole issue, is the timing of it.
So one of the questions I have from some of the people in the community as a whole hearing about this, being that what we're under state of emergency, will that state budget still be committed to that 250? Or is that kind of like, we don't really know? You know what I'm saying, as far as the project?
I'm not gonna take anything that you guaranteed at the state, because I don't know.
So would it be wise, I mean, I know y'all want to keep the contract while they're here and everything's, the dirt's broken up, the ground's broken. Would it be wise to wait until that state budget is approved to make sure with what we have going on in the state and what's going on now?
Well, my opinion is no, and three reasons. One, they're already there. So if you have to remobilize them, you're gonna pay, pretty much more money than you're paying today. Number two, if you get it finished, then when we're finished, we're done. And it's a beautiful park for everybody, right? If we don't, and we have to wait another 6 months or another year, then we're gonna come back and tear up half of what we've done, trying to build that stage. So, and then number three, we have the money. It's not like it's gonna hurt us one way or the other. I mean, she's done a really good job of appropriating where the money came from. So, anyway, we do what y'all want to do, but I think you ought to build it, be done with it, and let the hub be the hub.
Last question. So the city is only, the general fund is what's coming out of the city is 100,000. So not okay. That's why I was kind of confused. So I just want to make sure that, money that's spent for this is not being taken away. Us having a state of emergency, something that's kind of historic. But now that I see this 100 as opposed to the 400, I have more. Okay, cool.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? Thanks, Catherine.
You got one more?
I'm sorry, what?
What, did you do G too?
Yeah, I've got G also. Yes, sir. So my next item is to amend the contract for the audit services for fiscal year ending June 30, 2019, and to request for an additional full-time employee. As some of you are aware, we changed auditors from Carr, Riggs & Ingram to Dixon Hughes Goodman for the fiscal 19 year. Carr, Riggs & Ingram had been the city's auditor for over 22 years. I have worked diligently the past 9 months to try to get the audit done. I cannot get it done. We're probably about 65 to 70% done, and even with putting in long hours during the week and working on the weekends here, I just can't. So we've contracted with outside professional help to come in to help me get this done because we are well past our deadline. But I don't want to get in the same situation for fiscal 20. There were a lot of issues that came up as I am trying to go through this audit. Part of it, some of you will be aware of, that when we got our fiscal year 18 audit, in our schedule of financial and state awards, we did not have a violation, but they did make a material comment where they said that staff should be preparing and doing the reconciliations. And essentially, as I dove into doing the audit after June 30, 19 was over, what I found was that the auditors were actually performing a lot of the what I would call like the financial reconciliations that really staff should have been performing. So essentially, on top of other issues, other problems that I've come up on, I'm having to recreate fiscal year 18's audit because I've got to have reconciled schedules to roll forward to do fiscal 19. So I'm essentially having to do 2 years worth of audit in one. And that's with myself and my assistant director, Andrea Thompson, which, you know, we're both new. I've been here 13 months and she's been here about 11. So it is creating an undue stress. And although I pride myself on being a person to work through situations, I just can't keep working 70 and 80 hours a week. I mean, I've been doing this for like 13 months now. And so I'm asking for some help. We do have some issues that we are going to have to deal with that we are dealing with at this time. But I'm asking because the length of time it takes to get help, it's going to take several months to help me find someone, and what I'm looking for is someone professional like myself or Ms. Thompson that can help. We can indoctrinate, we can teach, and we can train that can help take some of the burdens. Because I do my job and I'm trying to keep up, but I will tell you I am struggling to keep up. I mean, if I'm out a day, it's just really difficult for me. Just trying to keep up with the day-to-day tasks and then also work on audit and also work on budget and to deal, and I have various issues, and I want to say there's nothing that is any kind of criminal, negligent activity at all, but I'm just saying we've just got some poor bookkeeping issues and poor consistency issues, and we're having to do a lot of things where we are trying to not just train finance staff, but we're trying to train admin staff. We're trying to use things in our system. We probably only use 15 or 20% of the accounting system, and I've introduced so many new things to our department heads and our admin staff that we're trying to use the things in the system, but there are a lot of things that are not set up, they're not set up properly, or they're only partially set up, and I'm only one person. So I'm just appealing to you to ask you if you would please allow me to hire another accountant to help me out to kind of get through this, because ultimately at the end of the day, you've got to have a good set of books. You have to have a consistent set of books because you've got to have financial credibility. If you want to borrow money, if you want to get grants, we've got to have a good, reliable set of books. So I appeal to you and I ask you to grant the extension for us to get our audit extended till June 30th for 19, and then also to allow me to hire another full-time person for my staff.
I believe you made your case. I believe she made her case.
Yes, I agree. I just want to know what would the salary request be for that particular position?
I think in my ballpark, it's probably going to be in that $50,000 to $55,000 range, and I hope I can get someone. I will tell you, my assistant director, Ms. Thompson, she has an accounting degree, and she also has a master's degree in business administration, and we struggled to get her here. She took a pay cut to come here. So I'm going to tell you 50 to 55, but I'm going to tell you it's going to be hard, and I really need somebody that's got an accounting degree. I need somebody that understands the nuts and bolts of debits and credits, but I'm going to try my best to get it at that range.
What's the higher number if you couldn't find someone for $55,000?
I think you're looking probably at that 60 to 65, but the problem with that is you would be paying them more than you're paying her. So, and this would be somebody that's under that position. So it becomes an equity issue, and those are things that I need to discuss with Bernadette as well to make sure that we get on an even playing field, because we want to treat everybody fairly, and we want to pay them for the job. And we're not, you don't pay me just to work like a workhorse, you pay me for my professional knowledge. So that's the same thing. We want to treat those folks fairly as well.
Any more questions? Thank you, Ms. Catherine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your hard work.
Item H. Good to be here, sir.
Mayor, City Council, I have item H and I. I'll go over H first. This is the contract award for the 2020 street paving improvements project. We opened bids on February 25th. We received 8 sealed bids. The streets that were in this project is Oak Hill Drive, East Chestnut Street, and Hawthorne Street, and Mimosa Street. Weaver's Asphalt and Maintenance Company out of Rocky Mount submitted the low bid for the project for a total cost of $641,711, and you can see the bids tabulated below that. We've reviewed the bids for accuracy, found everything to be in order. We reviewed the financing of the project with the finance director, determined that funds are available in street bonds. We recommend City Council by motion adopt the attached resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a contract for $641,711 with Weaver's Asphalt and Maintenance Company for the 2020 street paving improvements project.
Can you check their ability to do the job?
No.
You don't think we should? I mean, I don't have any idea.
I don't know. I don't have any idea. They've never bid on anything here.
To me, before we give them a $700,000 contract, we ought to at least check them out. I mean, can't the engineer do that or somebody?
Yeah, we can check them out.
I mean,
If they check out.
Are they not, is that not the group of people that did the trail, the walking trail out on New Hope Road?
No.
That was out, they were out of,
You-
Maury.
You know what I'm talking about, Jim? How that,
Well, I mean, is it a big deal to check them out and wait till next time?
Yeah, we can wait until next time.
Okay, we'll just
Pull that one off.
Yeah, if that's okay. All right.
Well, they do have a license. They are a licensed
That's a
contractor.
good start. We will, let's keep moving.
All right, item I is change orders 15, 16, 21, and 22 for the Phase 4 sewer collection rehabilitation project. The original contract was approved for $9.3 million. Construction orders in excess of $10,000 require approval of the city council prior to city manager approval. Here are the detailed change orders. You're wondering why we skipped from 16 to 21 is because we didn't have quantities on change order 17, 18, 19, and 20.
So you mean they're still coming?
They'll be coming at a later date. So we want to go ahead and push these through, but they total $505,298.92. We still have a savings within the contract between $1.5 million and $2 million. So we'll have some more change orders coming to spend that money on extra work. It'll require, the additional work will require 12 additional days to the contract, which will put the contract completion date to April 14th, 2020. Staff recommends issuing the change orders to the current contract with TA Loving for the Phase 4 sewer collection rehabilitation project. We've reviewed this change order with the finance director and determined that funds are available from the Clean Water Revolving Fund loan. Staff recommends the city council by motion adopt the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to execute change orders for $505,298.92 with TA Loving Company.
All right, one more question.
Sure.
Change order number 22, field costs for time extensions, $365,000.
Yeah.
For 12 days?
No, it'll be for the other change orders that we've done too. We added 103 days to,
Well, can we have a breakdown of that? That's, I mean, I can hire 5 engineers for that for a year. That's ridiculous, unless there's something that I don't understand.
I don't have the paper with me, but I've got it broke down.
What did you look at? I mean, do you think it's reasonable? Well, can we?
I was shocked when I first saw it at first, but when I got going, looking through it,
Well, can we pull this too and go through it?
Let's pull that, that's.
You mind?
you want to pull that one too?
I do.
Okay.
You got any more you want to do
I'm
tonight?
done.
Are you-
Hey, Marty, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Well, go ahead.
Who has the responsibility for cleaning the work areas after the project is done and during the process of the?
The contractor should be cleaning the area up. We have 2 contractors working on various things.
So this has been an issue with me for the last 6 or 7 months. Streets where this work is done is littered with gravel. It's been hauled to fill the sites where the cuts are made or repaired. And I can't, for the life of me, figure out why these streets get littered with gravel for months and months and months and not get cleaned up.
Okay?
But I think there's 2 sides of that. First off, like take Daisy Street, for example, okay? Daisy Street's been.
I've talked about Daisy Street.
For a year. They came and cleaned it up one time and held it's back just like it was, okay? But my concern,
If they were done with Daisy Street,
they came back and did more work.
oh, they did more
They're
work?
done.
Okay.
But my question is, why doesn't either us or the contractor have somebody that, hey, we're done here, is this road clean, check more? I mean, it's really just that.
That's totally unacceptable, I'll be.
And our patches aren't very good either. I mean, they don't do a very good job. You know, the patches should be saw cut and neat, they're like, and I think we let them get away with too much on that. You might check those.
We have definitely let them get away at Jefferson and East Ash Street. That intersection there, there's one place that there's a 2-inch drop. And they actually put some cones.
Now, I know we're using cold patch in some areas to temporarily patch them until they can get the asphalt crews back in.
But that's terrible. That whole area by that store between the cleaners, there's a, you know,
So you're saying some of this might be temporary?
I'd have to go look at them, but on Jefferson,
that's embarrassing.
there were 2 contractors working. So I gotta figure out which one is doing what.
Some of the
But
patches
we'll
are
address
great,
it in
but most of them
progress
are not.
meeting.
What?
Some of the patches are great, but some of them are not.
Right. Some of you got depressed areas that have.
Well, maybe the ones that are depressed are from a previous paving contractor that they fired, because they fired them and got somebody else.
Yeah, they did fire them in front of
The
mine.
general contractor's still responsible for it.
Yeah, the general
They still need to be
contractor's
sure
still
their stuff's right.
responsible for them.
So I need a motion to remove item H and I
Yep.
from the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Okay.
As I said, move to second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, so we've removed item H and J. Sorry, Marty, but thank you. Item J.
Good evening.
Good evening.
City of Goldsboro Personnel Policy Revision. Several sections of the city's personnel policy was revised by staff on April 4th, 2016. The most recent revision of the entire personnel policy was completed in June 2007 by Mr. Philip Robertson of the Mercer Group. At that time, recommendations were made to the City Council to update the city's job descriptions, pay structure, classification plan, and personnel policy. In August 2019, the city contracted with the Piedmont Triad Council of Governments for policy content review, benchmarking, and recommended revisions. In December 2019, recommended policy revisions were distributed to staff and city council for their opportunity to comment, make suggestions, and/or provide feedback. A review of the personnel policy was discussed with the department heads and administrative staff on January 14, 2020, resulting in additional minor changes. The recommended policy revisions were presented to the City Council on February 27, 2020, at the annual council retreat. With the exception of Article 7, Section 28, the advertisement, the adverse weather and emergency condition policy, the affected articles and sections are attached for your review. The revisions will be made to the personnel policy upon approval of the attached document. It is recommended that the City Council, by motion, adopt the attached resolution approving the revisions of the City of Goldsboro's personnel policy effective April 1, 2020.
Any questions?
Questions?
Page 71. It's all right, you don't, I'll explain. Merit pay, and that was addressed to our city manager, and the merit eligibility criteria was a subject to change at the city manager's discretion. So that's my concern, like what kind of, what's going to be involved in him changing that merit pay? And maybe you can answer that for me, sir.
Well, it's a budget item, right? So we put it in the budget for 1% last year, we'll put it in the budget this year. And then what we allowed for, to get the merit pay, we changed our scale from an evaluation of 1 to 4 and 2 being acceptable to 1 to 5 with, I think, 3 being the average acceptable, if I remember correctly. So the evaluations matter. You have to basically be doing your job to an acceptable level. And if you do, then you would get the merit pay. If you don't, you would not get the merit pay.
I think I understand that part.
Yeah.
Overall, I think that, council should still approve the percentage of merit pay.
Yes,
Yeah, they do.
that's in the budget.
So I just want to make sure that was clarified, because it wasn't clear in there.
Okay.
And then, in page 103, anti-harassment policy, the definitions defined. And I saw you had vendors included, you had part-time employees included, but I didn't see anything pertaining to council members being protected pertaining to anti-harassment.
That includes all employees, all vendors, all contractors, all volunteers, and elected officials for the anti-harassment policy.
Yes, but it didn't say, it's not clear.
Okay, so we'll clarify that.
Thank you. And, okay, a social media policy, that was in Appendix F. I think that overall, I don't know why we're changing some of the things there, because in April 18th, 2017, we had social media training too, and I think that it was updated when Mr. Stevens was here. So what's your reasons for changing that, changing some of the policies?
Social media policy, has it been changed? The social media policy, as I recall, did not change from the current policy.
No, there was some changes.
Okay, so we would have to go back and review exactly what those were. Can you quote those?
When you get, we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Before we finalize it, if we can have,
Yeah, we
at
can look
least
at the
till
social
next.
media policy, but to my recollection, I don't recall that social media policy being changed.
Okay. And,
Well, now, hold on, does that mean we're voting on that tonight or not?
no, if it's okay with council, if we can just wait till she clarifies with me, because she doesn't have everything in front of
We
her.
can certainly bring it back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just need to be sure we get that off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep.
And also, I saw, and it happens everywhere, I saw some misspellings in certain areas. So if you could just double check that so that it's not, I don't mean, it
So we
happens
have
all the time.
social media policy, harassment policy.
Yes. And the merit
And-
pay, I'm clear on that.
Merit pay,
So-
okay.
And I know we discussed, the council, we discussed hand-free devices when it came to our employees driving. I didn't see anything
That
pertaining to that.
policy continues to be under revision and will be added.
Okay.
Our safety officers working on that policy.
Because I saw the smoke-free policy, but I didn't see anything
Yeah.
pertaining to that.
We're working on that.
Hey, it's 6:55. The month just since we recessed till 7 o'clock because we got, take us that long to get over there. Some of y'all slower than others. So if we can, let's recess and we'll
You
Start
want
us.
to move item J right past?
Oh, yeah, well, will somebody make a motion, to move item J off the consent
I
agenda?
make the motion that we remove item J.
HIJ.
Is there, any discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Okay, item J is moved. Thank you. Of March 16th to order. Our first order of business is the invocation, and we have Pastor Stanley Kelly here. He's going to do our invocation, and then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, Pastor. Pastor Kelly is from the Fellowship Baptist Church. Is that right?
Fellowship Baptist Church. Yes, sir. Let's pray. Our Father, we come to you this evening, and I want to thank you, first of all, for your kind mercies that you extend to us each and every day of our life. This morning, God, when we woke up, we found your mercies just as new to us today as they have been every other day of our lives. And for that, we say thank you. And we come to you in this time, and we ask for your wisdom and guidance and discernment for these city representatives of ours as they conduct business and make important decisions for our community. God, I pray that you would give them wisdom, insight. I pray that there would be a good unity of spirit. And God, would you help us as a community to always strive to pull together and strive together for the common good and ultimately for your glory. And we also pray this evening in light of the uncertainty and the fear that grips not only our community but and almost an entire globe this evening in wake of the disease of the virus spreading. God, we confess our sins to you. It seems very almost ironic that a world that rejects and rebels so strongly against you at times, but in a time of calamity, we have no one else to turn to but to you. So God, we ask once again for your divine favor and help in our lives. And we'll praise you and thank you for all that you do. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Now we have roll call.
Mayor Allen.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Holloway.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Coe.
Present.
Councilmember Matthews.
Present.
Councilmember
Here.
Payne. Councilmember Impey.
Here. We're all here. Next, we have the approval of the minutes for February 14th, 2020.
I move we approve the minutes of February 14th and February 17th.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like lines. Motion carries. All right. Next, we have presentations. We've got the 135 USCT Troop Birthday Proclamation, and Councilmember, and I saw Jay Bowers here. I'm assuming that's why you're here.
We see some gentlemen.
Oh, and there yeah. So, yeah,
That's
no,
what
look
people-
at him back there trying to take credit
They
for all
brought
that.
a militia with
All right, well, Councilmember Broadway is gonna read this real quick, and then we'll let y'all come up and get a picture, and if you wanna make any comments, that'll be fine. Okay?
135th U.S. Colored Troop, USCT 155th Birthday Proclamation. Whereas the 135th USCT was formed in Goldsboro, North Carolina on March the 27th, 1865, from men who previously served in the Pioneer Corps and were part of General William T. Sherman's army. And whereas prior to their taking the oath of service in Goldsboro, they had been recruited into the Pioneer Corps during Sherman's march through Georgia and the Carolinas. And the Pioneer Corps worked diligently through the winter of 1864 and spring of 1865 to move General Sherman's army corduroy roads to get them through the swamp and building bridges to cross the rivers, Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina. They had to work day and night to make sure there were over 2,500 wagons and the 60,000-man army of General Sherman were able to rapidly advance in an effort to bring the Civil War to an end. And the enlisted at Goldsboro, the men of the 135th USCT were commanded by Colonel John E. Gorley and were given their United States Army blue uniforms with the famous brass buttons with the Freedom Eagle on the face. And whereas upon leaving Goldsboro, the 135th USCT marched as part of General Sherman's army to Raleigh, North Carolina, and then up to Virginia, and whereas one of their proudest moments was when the men of the 135th U.S. States Colored Troop marched with General William T. Sherman's army in the Grand Review at Washington, D.C. on May the 24th, 1865. And whereas following the brief time in Washington, D.C., and performing guard duty at Fort Kearny in the defense of the capital, 135th USCT were transported by train and then by boat to Louisville, Kentucky. While at Louisville, they performed more guard duty until they were mustered out of the service on October the 23rd, 1865. Therefore, I, Chuck Allen, Mayor of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, do hereby recognize March 27th, 2020 as the 135th USCT's 155th birthday. Encourage all citizens to recognize the efforts of these brave men that fought for our country. Witnessed by hand and corporate seal in the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, 16th day of March 2020. Sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Amy, you want to say anything, or anybody? Oh, there's the spokesman right there. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good, thank you. I'm Deborah Jones, and I'm a member of the 135th USCT research team. And it is indeed our honor for you to honor these men because they were freedom fighters, and they were organized right here in Goldsboro, North Carolina, March 27, 1865. And that is Goldsboro's unique history. Nobody else can claim that. It is also North Carolina's history because over 200 men from North Carolina joined this group as Sherman came through. It is a United States history because these men, in their role as the pioneers, they were in Sherman's Pioneer Corps. If they hadn't done the diligent work that they did, Sherman could not have gotten where he needed to go to execute the war and bring the Civil War to an end. So they did play a pivotal role. Our job on the 135th USCT research team has been to uncover and to educate the public on their role and to showcase Goldsboro's history. And so we've been out all over the community throughout the states, Civil War Roundtable, the African American Heritage Day, North Carolina History Museum, churches, libraries, anywhere someone will let us speak, we go. And so we are proud to thank you for your support. We did a Living History Weekend 2 years ago, and the Goldsboro City Council was very instrumental in getting that off the ground and making that happen. So we thank you for all of your support. We have a descendant here from one of the troops. We have people from Goldsboro, his descendant, Jack Sherrod, Philip Ford. A lot of us are over 60, so we're social distancing tonight, and some of us braved it out. But we do have people, the descendants that are on the committee. One of our research things is to find more of those descendants and make them aware of their heritage. So again, I'd just like to thank you all for your support in honoring the 155th year of the anniversary of the 135th USCT's being organized right here in Goldsboro. Goldsboro's very own history, and it is unique to Goldsboro, and they were the last USCT, United States Colored Troop, organized in North Carolina. So thank you very much.
And we want to take a minute to thank you for what y'all as a group have done. I know Jay and Amy kind of got it started, but boy, it's had a lot of steam after they got it, and it's been amazing what has been exposed, what we have learned. I know I had never heard of them, so
we didn't either.
So I know we've done a lot, but we appreciate everything that y'all have done as well. And look, you know you can't not talk.
Well, I just wanted to add one thing, and it's mentioned here in the proclamation that the 135th United States Colored Troop did march in the Grand Review in Washington DC on May 24th, 1865, and we've uncovered that they were the only United States colored troop to march in the Grand Review, so that's sort of special also. It's been said over the years that no United States colored troop marched in the Grand Review or were allowed to march in the Grand Review, but we've uncovered that they did.
We have the regimental orders and the pension records, so those are not like hearsay, those are facts.
Y'all mind if we get a picture? I know we're not supposed to, but we will.
Yes, sir. Oh, you're not?
Well, you know you're not supposed to have closeness. Amy, come up. Come on, Amy. You're not very long. Whatever you got to do. Smile.
I'm the research. Okay.
Everybody close enough?
I don't think Deborah's old enough. She's a retired lieutenant colonel from the Air Force.
That's what I do.
You got extra credit over here from the airport.
And Mayor, just one final note, that we really appreciate you doing this for us. This is Amy and I's 49th wedding anniversary.
Today?
Yes.
Wow.
So
Amy,
that makes it
going
really
ahead,
special.
baby, that's all I know.
Thank you.
All right. We have the next is the Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation, but they are not here tonight because they weren't coming, so we won't do that. Next we have public hearing, CU 220 roads, crematorium.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Item D is CU 220 Roads Crematorium. The property is located on the northwest corner of Wayne Memorial Drive and 8th Street. The applicant's requesting a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a crematorium. The applicant operates an existing funeral home adjacent to the subject property and located at 1701 Wayne Memorial Drive and formerly known as Rhodes Funeral Home and Cremations. In February of 2011, City Council originally approved site and landscape plans for Rhodes Funeral Home to operate a funeral home located at 1701 Wayne Memorial Drive. In March of 2015, City Council approved site and landscape plans for the applicant to add approximately 2,700 square feet to the existing funeral home for a total of 6,300 square feet. In December of 2018, a certificate of occupancy was issued for the construction of a 2,500 accessory building located behind the funeral home and used to store automobiles for the funeral service. Now the applicant proposes to operate a crematorium in conjunction with the funeral services. Crematoriums are a permitted use in the general business zoning district only after the issuance of a conditional use permit approved by City Council. Crematoriums must comply with several regulations. Those regulations are: the crematory must be accessory to a funeral establishment. It shall not emit any undue smoke, dust, heat, or odor, and loading and unloading areas shall be screened from adjacent properties and the public right-of-way. The subject property is directly south and across the street from the Market Square Shopping Center, as you can see in the map on the screen. The submitted site plan indicates the construction of a 4,500 square foot facility for the operation of the crematorium. Currently, an existing 950 square foot single family dwelling occupies the property, and the owner intends to demolish or remove the home from the site. Staff is working with the applicant to ensure that the exterior building materials are compliant with city standards, and the applicant is working with a design professional to determine an interior layout of the facility, which will include a family waiting area, an office, restrooms, storage, and an interior garage with access through 2 bay garage doors at the rear of the facility. Hours of operation are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with 1 employee. The developer has proposed one 26-foot wide driveway cut for the site along 9th Street, providing access to 2 parking lots at the front and rear of the facility. Another 20-foot wide access drive is proposed at the rear of the site for traffic circulation from the existing funeral home to the proposed crematory. A driveway permit will be required by city engineering. The site plan also shows a total of 8 parking spaces to include 1 handicapped accessible space, which meets the parking requirements of the city's ordinances. Exterior sidewalks are shown along on the submitted site plan, and the site plan indicates street trees, a type A 10-foot wide landscape buffer along the western and southern property lines, and an existing type A buffer along the eastern property line, which satisfies the city's landscape ordinance. City water and sewer are available to serve the property. Stormwater calculations and drainage plans have not been submitted. However, the developer will be required to submit those plans and be approved by city engineering prior to any construction permits being issued. Interconnectivity has not been identified on the site plan. The applicant believes that interconnectivity would be impractical due to the existing site conditions of adjacent properties. The applicant is requesting a modification of the interconnectivity requirement. At this time, there's no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for council at your April 6th meeting. And here are just some elevations. This is from 9th Street of the existing dwelling. And this is from the rear of the existing funeral home. You can see just a little bit of the house in the elevation. Any questions for staff?
Any questions, Jeff? All right, seeing no questions, this is a conditional use permit on request to allow the operation of a crematorium. The applicant operates an existing funeral home adjacent to the subject property and located at 1708 Wayne Memorial Drive, formerly known as Rhodes Funeral Home and Crematorium. Would anybody like to speak in favor or against? Anybody like? Yes, sir, Mr. J. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I represent the shopping center that's to the north. I really didn't come to oppose or to support it, this venture. Obviously, they would prefer that it didn't exist, but I can read the tea leaves. I would say that probably it will exist. And I know Mr. J.B. Rhodes III is a fine young man.
Can I interrupt for a second, sir? We really need to swear in this testimony, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Pardon me?
my bad.
Can I swear you in real quick?
But he's an attorney.
I know, but
Well, whatever, I mean, it's fine. I didn't
Give
know.
us a conditional use, and
Okay.
I don't think he said he was representing either party.
I do. I represent the shopping center. I K5 properties, K2 properties, and Centrex properties.
Okay.
That's who I represent.
All right. Then that's fine, as long as you're representing somebody. I didn't hear that part to begin with.
Okay,
And so if
excuse
it's
me.
just talking, then we had to.
All right.
He's just trying to mess with you.
Pardon me?
Lawyer to lawyer, he's trying to mess with you.
I didn't understand what he said.
I had you back, go ahead.
At any rate, Mr. Rhodes is a fine young man, and one of his companies owns it. But I did hear some good things about the engineering. If it is approved, make sure that it meets those specifications, because we are concerned about smoke and odor, very much so. And the other thing, though, that I would urge would be that there be connectivity between the parking lot of the funeral home behind and this building. Looks like the economies of the situation would be best served if a lot of the commerce that went on would go through the back rather than the front. That would take the parking off of the front.
I think there is.
Okay, well, that would take a lot of the traffic. But I see that, but can vehicles transverse between those two? From
We'll check that, but there is connectivity.
the parking lot, in other words, could I drive from there to there? That's my question.
There's a connection there.
Okay, well, that would seem to me, that would be a good economic way for the folks to operate it, and it would lessen the traffic on 9th Street. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I have a question for you. I noticed you made mention of the smoke and that, but in Howell's Funeral Home in close proximity of that same, and don't they have a crematorium in their back of their funeral home as well?
Who is this?
Howell's Funeral Home, right?
They may very well have one.
They do. So I didn't know why that was.
And back down, I presume that Seymour does, on back down the street.
They
They don't?
But I know they were in close proximity, that's why I was addressing, you were saying
Well,
about the smoke, so.
Exactly. I trust that the existing crematorium is operated properly. I certainly hope that it is, and that there's no dust, smoke, odor emanating from it, as we hope there would be none if this project is approved.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak? Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing and we'll move to the next. Z220.
Item E is Z220 Simmons Business Park. The property is located on the west side of South George Street between Cola Drive and Wayne Avenue. The site is the former Pepsi Cola bottling company property and is zoned I-2 General Industry. On April 4th, 2017, City Council approved site and landscape plans for Green Tech to operate a multi-tenant facility to introduce and promote green technology or environmentally clean technology to the citizens and businesses of Goldsboro and Wayne County through education, training, employment, and entrepreneurship. Since occupying the facility, the owner has had several inquiries regarding potential uses that are not permitted within the general industry I-2 zoning district. However, these same uses are permitted within the general business zoning districts. Examples include automobile washing establishments, automatic and hand wash, dry cleaning, laundries, coin-operated, and clinical, medical, and therapeutic offices. In an effort to provide additional opportunity and space consistent with the applicant's original request to use the property for green or environmentally clean technology, education, training, employment, and entrepreneurship, the applicant is requesting a zoning change from general industry I-2 to general business conditional district for the operation of a multi-tenant business park. Surrounding zoning to the north, south, east, and west, you have general industry I-2. The existing building on the site contains 3 areas as follows. Roughly 37,000 square feet is designated for greenhouse, 12,000 square feet designated for classroom and offices, and 9,000 square feet designated for warehouse. If the rezoning is approved, the applicant intends to modify the classroom, office, and greenhouse spaces to accommodate uses which is permitted within the general business zoning district and compliant with the North Carolina State Building Code. And again, some of the examples of those uses as indicated by the applicant were automobile washing establishments, dry cleaning, laundries, clinical, medical, and therapeutic offices. At this time, no other changes to the parking or landscaping are required for the site. No outdoor storage is proposed, and any outdoor storage proposed in the future must receive City Council approval. The city's comprehensive land use plan recommends industrial development for the property. However, the plan also states that the city may consider support the rezoning of underutilized industrial properties to other zoning categories, which may be consistent with the plan's goals of business and industrial development. The property is located within a special flood hazard area known as the 100-year floodplain, and city water and sewer are available to serve the property. At this time, there's no action necessary, and the Planning Commission will have a recommendation for council's meeting on April 6th. Again, this is a picture of the existing elevation or existing property in question. Any questions for staff?
Any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll open this public hearing. Z220 Simmons Business Park, west side of George Street, between Cola Drive and Wayne Avenue. They're trying to go from I-2 to GBCD. Anybody want to speak? Seeing none, we'll close this public hearing, and that'll be done with our public hearings. Our nice planning commission is excused. Thank y'all for coming. What few of you came. And then next we have public comment. This is a time where anybody from our audience could come speak for up to 3 minutes. We just ask that you keep it to city business. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm coming. I was watching at home, and I felt compelled to come and talk about the summer youth program. As an educator at Wayne Early Middle College High School, and as the work-based learning coordinator there, I personally have had students in my class, and recently even I was fortunate enough to have Miss Pamela Leak from the Human Resources Department here come and speak with my students about interviewing. And so several of them mentioned being students, and has happened on multiple occasions, being students that have had the opportunity to actually experience the summer youth program. They speak so highly of it. So with that, I felt compelled to come and say that I feel like there should just be a little bit more concern from you all as to make sure that it's growing. And what I mean by that is to hear that there's 7,000 plus students that potentially are in the age range and that we only have 50 that could potentially work, then the first thing I thought of is always, well, what are some good suggestions I can bring you to help grow this program? So one, I would suggest that as soon as the summer program is over in August, that in September you have some lesson learning workshops going on. You then have a survey be completed by the current employers, those that employ the students. So that 50 would be surveyed. Then you would ask them how do they feel about the students that participate, and then ask them, do they have friends? Meaning, because if I'm an employer, the likelihood is if I'm in business, I got friends that are in business, correct? So then they could be asked, could you share these programs with your friends that are not partners that may be interested in being partners the following year? So that then may make it grow to more than 50 employers to maybe 75 or 100 employers. Then from there, I would then market for employers throughout the whole month of October and November. Then by December, have a good idea of how many employers I have. By January, I could advertise it to students. That way I wouldn't, our community affairs and the human resource department wouldn't feel so like it's last minute. And then those are ways that we could get more students to be able to take advantage of this amazing opportunity. So I thought that I would bring that to you as a suggestion, because I felt like, and I'm not saying we shouldn't take the word of what individuals say, but I felt like you guys just kind of weaved it over. They said, oh, is this? You guys should really be pushing this program. These are our children. This is our future, and we should want them to be able to have any advancements they can have. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak from the audience? Well, this is unusual.
It is, isn't it? So I just want to put it on record, Mayor, that, you know, I live in the historic district, and just recently we had an individual on Virginia Street in the 200 block go across the street. I thought it was city-owned property, but tore his shed apart, and he's taken the material across the street to, I believe it's 215 North Virginia Street, and he's starting to build himself a shed in the bushes back there, and I think he's planning on living there. But I think the city ought to be aware, and that something needs to be done with it. The lumber's scattered all over the lot, and he's doing something that...
Did you call the police?
I haven't. I just noticed it today. But something needs to be done.
Well, that'd be the first step.
Well, I've called
Citizen involvement.
Yeah, no, I've called the police before, but they've told me, unless it's your lot, we don't have anything to do with it.
Look, Jennifer here, we'll get on it tomorrow. Sorry you had to come up, but thank you for coming. Anybody else like to speak from the public? All right, if not, we're gonna close the public comment period. We're gonna move to consent agenda. And somebody mentioned what items we're taking off.
Well, I'll mention the ones we're going to do,
All
hopefully. Consent agenda items F, G, and K are presented for council approval.
Is there a motion to
I'll make a
approve?
motion that we approve consent agenda items F, G, and K.
All right, roll call vote?
Second.
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 Oh, I need a second.
Second.
Second, now, Madam Clerk, roll call?
Mayor Allen?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Pro Tem Broadway?
Yes.
Councilmember Williams?
Yes.
Councilmember Colette?
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews?
Yes.
Councilmember Ham?
Yes.
Councilmember Acott?
Yes.
All right, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we have items requiring individual action. There are none. We'll have the city manager's report.
Yes, sir. In addition to the working session discussion on COVID-19, I will take a look at closing the Parks and Rec indoor facilities to the public and seeing what may be available to provide care for school-age children of city employees going forward.
All right.
That's all I have.
All right, we'll have the council member. We'll start with Ms. Raycott.
You know, we're under this COVID-19
And I noticed, I went to the grocery store yesterday and noticed all the items that had been cleaned out. And I think there's a lot of people who need to think of other people when they're buying these products. Because I saw somebody going out with like 2 big cases of toilet paper, and I don't understand what the emergency is on toilet paper, but the shelves were bare. And there may be somebody who needed to buy hand sanitation or hand wipes or any of that stuff. And if you clear it off the shelf just for you, it leaves nothing for anybody else. So just think of you fellow citizen whenever you're making purchases.
Councilman Ram? I would first echo Councilman Aycock's comments about the situation that we're in now. But also want to mention the fact that in our work session, we didn't address the departmental monthly reports. I actually read that long, laborious listing of department reports. I always do anyway. But I'll tell you something, folks. We have a wonderful group of people working here for us. And if you read what they actually do, you don't see it. You don't hear much about it on a daily basis. But if you read the reports that were submitted by these departments, you really have an impact. You see an impact of what's happening here in the city and what they're putting their time and effort for. Tonight, our finance director talked about her working 60, 70 hours a week on a project. The public doesn't see these things. And if you see some people out working or coming in the office, whatever, just say thank you for your job you do, because they do an extremely good job.
No? Is that all? Thank you, sir.
No comment.
No comment? Ms. Barlow?
I'd like to kind of tag along on the COVID-19 for the other gentleman, but just that these are times that we have no idea what's going on. If you look at the TV, you have an even less idea of what's going on. But it's time for us to pull together and think out of the box. And the things I worry the most are about our elderly, our children. How are we going to feed them? Our elderly, how are we going to make sure they're safe and fed? And also on those that are less advantaged that we see on the streets and in the area. We've got to think out of the box, and we all got to band together. And we've just got to figure this thing out quickly. That's all I have, sir.
Ms. Barlow?
Yeah, I just want my public safety students to know that you're not off the hook with your homework assignment. This will be a great way to assess what's going on as we've been getting prepared for disaster preparedness in my public safety class. I also want to say that it was awesome to be a part of history, to see the men here tonight that represented the 135th of the United States Colored Troops. It was an honor to be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Williams?
Just want to let everybody know to remember to be safe. If you don't have to come outside, don't come outside. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I've got one proclamation. It's the month of the military child. Thousands of brave Americans have demonstrated their courage and commitment to the freedom by serving in our country's armed forces and active duty posts across the world. Nearly 2 million children have at least one parent currently serving in active military duty. Goldsboro, North Carolina is home of Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, and Wayne County Public School System has over 2,000 military-connected students, or 10% of its population, who are children of active duty, reserve, retired, or veterans. The United States Department of Defense celebrates the month of April as the month of the military child, further highlighting the important role military children play in the armed forces community. The children of our service members are major contributors to the strength of their parents, of the significant contributions to families, schools, our community, and the state and the nation, despite repeated and prolonged absences of one or both parents. Hey, Bill, will you please I'm gonna let Bill finish because I'm losing my voice.
Whereas parents serve in the military, their kids serve too, and it's fitting for our city to pay tribute to military children for their commitment, their struggles, and their unconditional support of our troops. Therefore, I, Chuck Allen, Mayor of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, do proclaim April 2020 as the month of the military child. and April 9th as Purple Up Day for Wayne County Public Schools. We encourage all school personnel and the City of Goldsboro residents to recognize the contributions of our military families and to celebrate the spirit of military children across our city and nation by wearing purple on April the 9th as an outward symbol of appreciation for our youngest heroes. In witness thereof, I hereby set my hand and fix the seal of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina on the 16th day of March, 2020.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have the resolution in memory of John M. Bell. I'm not going to read it because I've already taken it to his family, but I'm telling you, they had a really, really nice service for him this past weekend, and we have lost a true gentleman, did a lot for this community, and they weren't any better than he was. So we certainly will miss him and want his family to know our thoughts and prayers are with them. With that, I see nothing else. Right, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you for coming.